The CFA Institute, the world's largest financial professional credentialing organization, recently released a report titled The Appeal of the Financial Metrics, Investing in the Age of Social Media, which found that financial metrics, which attract a large number of followers on social media platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, have become an important source of investment information and advice for Gen Z investors, who, due to a lack of financial knowledge and the high cost of advice, are turning to the content provided by financial webmasters to make investment decisions. After analyzing financial content on social media in different countries, the report found that nearly 45% of the content is investment guidance, 36% is promotion of financial products, and 32% contains specific investment advice. The dual informational and appealing nature of social media aggregated Netflix content makes it increasingly important to play a role in educating the younger generation about financial literacy. But the lack of disclosure of information in some of the content may prevent consumers from assessing the objectivity of the content. This presents us with an opportunity to some interesting insights and coalesce what we've already talked about into a batch of financial basics videos one after another, so we can better understand influential content. Okay, let's get started. Today we're talking about the three major US stock indexes: the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq. The earliest stock market appeared in 1602 on the Amsterdam River Bridge in the Netherlands, where the Dutch East India Company issued the world's first publicly traded stock. This marked the birth of the modern stock market. More than 400 years later, with the recovery of the US economy and its ability to innovate, as well as the competitive advantage of US companies in the global marketplace, the US stock market has become the world's largest financial market, with a market capitalization of 42% of the world's total stock market capitalization. Any fluctuation in the US stock market affects the world economy and other stock markets. If you want to get into the US stock market and build a portfolio with high growth potential, you must first understand the three most basic US stock indexes: Dow Jones Industrial Average, Dow Jones Standard & Poor's 500, S&P 500, and Nasdaq. What are the three major indices? An index, in simple terms, is used to track the performance of the stock market, or one of its industries or sectors, in order to quickly grasp market trends and price changes. In layman's terms, it is too difficult to track the price of each stock, bond, or commodity individually. With indexes, investors can see how the market is performing simply by looking at a particular index. Exchanges and index compilers will set certain indicators or conditions to screen out eligible investment targets and gather them together to form an index of constituent stocks. There are three common indexing methods: capitalization-weighted index and price-weighted index. Capitalization-weighted index. A market capitalization-weighted index is based on the market capitalization of individual stocks. The market capitalization of all listed companies is added together to arrive at the total market capitalization, which is then weighted according to the market capitalization of individual stocks. Simply put, the higher the market capitalization of a company, the higher its weighting and ranking in the index. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq are both market capitalization-weighted indices. S&P 500. This is one of the most famous market capitalization-weighted indices, launched by Standard & Poor's in 1957. It includes stocks of 500 large US companies, and is widely used as a benchmark for market performance. Nasdaq Composite Index. Created by the National Association of Securities Dealers (NASD) on February 5, 1971, the Nasdaq Composite Index tracks the performance of all stocks listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. The Nasdaq Index has a 100-point base and consists of thousands of companies listed on the Nasdaq. The index focuses primarily on technology stocks, high-growth stocks, and innovative companies, and is therefore considered an important indicator of the performance of these sectors. With more than 3,287 constituents, the Nasdaq is one of the largest indexes. More than 50% of the constituent stocks are in the technology industry, such as Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, etc. The Nasdaq is regarded as the benchmark for US technology stocks. Technology stocks around the world use the Nasdaq as a way of a price-weighted index (PWI). Price-weighted indexes are organized according to individual stock prices. The stock prices of all listed companies are added together to arrive at a total stock price, which is then weighted according to individual stock prices. Simply put, the higher a company's stock price, the higher its weighting and ranking in the index. However, a high stock price does not directly reflect a company's market capitalization and true value. The old Dow Jones Industrial Average is a price-weighted index. Dow Jones Industrial Average, a collection of the 30 strongest blue-chip stocks in the US. This is one of the most famous price-weighted indices, founded by Charles Dow in 1896. Dow Jones Industrial Average (DJIA) is one of the oldest indexes in the US market and has great influence and reference value in the global stock market. It includes 30 of the most influential blue chips in the US, such as Goldman Sachs, Morgan Chase, American Express, Disney, 3M, Apple, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and other household names. It is widely used as an indicator of market performance. The Dow Jones Index, as it is often called, refers to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The word industrial is in the name of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, because the founder, Charles Henry Dow, compiled the index at a time when the Industrial Revolution was just ending. Trains and automobiles were on the rise, so the most important companies of the day came from the industrial sector. Hence the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which began with just 12 stocks. As time went on and industries rose and fell, the DJIA was no longer limited to industrial companies, but rather included companies from a wide range of industries. The DJIA is compiled from thousands of US companies to select the 30 largest companies of the day and is price-weighted, with high-priced stocks making up a relatively larger portion of the DJIA. Since the constituent stocks are almost all industry leaders, the DJIA has a low turnover rate. Generally, the DJIA is replaced by other companies only when a company has financial results, declines in performance, or is acquired or privatized. Since its inception in 1896, the Dow Jones Industrial Average (DJIA) has undergone 58 member turnovers. These changes reflect changes in the marketplace and the economy, ensuring that the index represents the most important companies in the US economy. The most recent DJIA member bloodletting began on February 26, 2024, when the DJIA added retail giant Amazon to its constituents, replacing Walgreens Boots Alliance. To summarize, these two indexing methods have their own advantages and disadvantages. The market capitalization weighted indexes are more reflective of the market's overall value movements, while the price-weighted indexes are more susceptible to the influence of high-priced stocks. The three major US stock indices provide investors with an overview of US stock market sentiment and trends. Each index reflects the overall economic performance of a different industry or sector. The S&P 500, the top 500 US companies by market capitalization in one place. Although the Dow Jones Industrial Average is a collection of 30 of the most influential stocks in the United States, the number of members is too small to reflect the overall trend of the US market. The S&P 500's constituents are leaders in their respective industries, such as Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, etc. The total market capitalization of the 500 constituents is equivalent to 80% of the US stock market's total market capitalization, which is a wide range of industries, and therefore more accurately reflects the trend of the US stock market, and highlights the S&P 500's representativeness among many other indexes. Generally speaking, companies that make the S&P 500 are financially sound. Nasdaq Composite. The big tech players are all here. Since the Nasdaq was bloated with too many constituents, and some of the constituents were not US-based companies, the Nasdaq-100 NDX was derived from the Nasdaq Index, which is a compilation of 100 listed companies in various industries and excludes financial stocks. The streamlined Nasdaq 100 Index has a higher proportion of technology stocks, covering topics such as chips, 5G, big data, etc. Heavyweight constituents include Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, eBay, Intel, Zoom, and other tech giants, making it a pure tech stock benchmark. Laws and regulators, they're all watching. The three major US stock indices, Dow Jones Industrials, S&P 500, and Nasdaq Composite, are subject to a number of legal and regulatory authorities. 1. Securities laws. Securities Act of 1933. Securities Exchange Act of 1934. The Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 require companies to provide adequate disclosure in public offerings and regulate stock exchanges and listed companies. These laws ensure the transparency and fairness of the constituent stocks of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500 Index, and the Nasdaq Composite Index, and protect the interests of investors. 2. Regulatory agencies. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority (FINRA), which regulate the trading activities of the constituent stocks of the three indexes to prevent market manipulation and fraud. 3. Other relevant laws. The Investment Company Act 1940, the Investment Advisors Act 1940, and the Fair Disclosure Requirements Reg. FD, which regulate the operations of investment companies and funds and ensure the conduct and disclosure requirements of investment advisors. These laws ensure the compliance of the constituent companies of the three indexes and maintain market stability. 4. Market regulation. Nasdaq market regulation, which includes monitoring stock and options trading activities. A recent survey by Deloitte shows that teens are 3 times more likely to fall prey to scams than baby boomers, due to a lack of social experience and a high reliance on social media. Due to a lack of social experience and discernment and financial literacy, teenagers are highly active on social media and are easily exposed to a wide range of false information and scam content. Advertisements and recommended content on social media platforms can sometimes mislead them and increase the risk of being scammed. We have always recognized the importance of freely sharing information about financial investments, and this is a positive development that we have seen. However, it is important to help young people effectively improve their discernment skills so that they can safely navigate the online world. We're working on this in good faith. It's our honor. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Feel free to like and subscribe to LifeWinner.